We are delighted to welcome Julie Lloyd-Evans of Learning Without Walls as our first speaker. Julie is a hugely experienced practitioner in creative outdoor learning, and we're really pleased that she's agreed to contribute today. So over to you, Julie.
Whilst I would wholeheartedly love to be in a woodland with you all now, I am hugely reassured at how many people have managed to make it today. And I think that kind of illustrates in these difficult, hugely busy times, the fact that we've got quite a nice number of people along, how important this issue is, and actually how many people want to engage with it. So the way this is going to run is I'm going to put you in a bit of a state of crisis to begin with, and then hopefully maneuver you down a path that brings a little hope and encouragement and positive vibes by the end. The bulk of the presentation, and I hope this is going to be useful for you all, is really going to be a bit like a speed dating style of numerous activities that you can grab and go and implement in your school grounds and wider areas linked with art and the outdoor learning. So let's go. One of the things I sort of wanted to highlight first is this whole exploration of what outdoor learning can bring to the arts and what the arts can offer outdoor learning will be the crux of this. I think there's a huge, really important synergy between the two. And when done together, there's an amplification of the benefits that we're all very aware the two can offer. I was really taken by this quote. I don't know if any of you have heard of George Crumb, but he's an avant-garde composer that we might dip into a bit later. But I just really liked this. It really resonated with me. So the future will be the child, the past and present. And that sort of really made me think of the essence and the enormity that we as educators have for each individual child, but actually the whole future, because as we present and give to these children this sort of knowledge, we are actually moulding the future. And then I love this little bit, even the rebellious child. Now rebel, if you obviously look up, is always a very negative word. And as teachers, I'm not sure we want rebels in our classroom, outside our classroom. But it got me thinking of the very important rebels that have sort of put their head above the parapet, like Greta Thunberg and Vanessa Nakata. So two environmental activists that have really made an influence and informed people. And I thought, actually, as teachers, I think we need to be getting those rebels out there. I think we need to be creating a mindset, creating an attitude and perhaps some skills fit a little bit with that rebel. Before I sort of blast into those activities that I think will be really useful, I just want to clarify the way I see outdoor learning. So I'm going to do that first by saying what it isn't. And it's often presented in these ways that it isn't. But it's definitely not an add-on. It's definitely not just enrichment. And it's not a separate subject to be done one afternoon as outdoor learning. And it's also not just forest schools, although that's vitally and hugely important. So the actual definition is a powerful tool for teaching and learning that should be frequent, integrated across the whole curriculum, progressively as part of a rich and broad curriculum. Now, the key words are underlined there. This frequent and integrated and progressive means that it is part of the children's school career from the beginning all the way through. And then I just want to also clarify what the crux of this presentation will be about. So learning in the natural environment. I normally steer well clear of this acronym because the outdoor learning industry is overburdened with acronyms. But for the purpose of today, I found this very useful. So the broad spectrum of outdoor learning is going to be narrowed today, partly because I think this is the essence and most essential part for what we're doing today, but also we're rather short time. Learning in natural environments will be the focus. And here we're into the crisis. So we've got a crisis in childhood. We're going to start with the poor well-being. I think right now teachers are right on the front line of understanding the significance of this. So with statistics showing 1 in 6 children have a mental health issue, showing that 1/3 of those that are referred in the NHS don't even get seen to. And in the last 3 years, there's been a 50% increase in the chances of children being diagnosed with a mental health issue. I don't think any of us need any of those statistics to see what's straight in front of us. I can be quite honest with you and say that going back into the outdoors and teaching since the pandemic has been probably one of the most difficult times I've experienced. I am finding the children less able to collaborate, less able to care for each other, and struggling with the social skills. Now, this is all something that I tend to find quite easy when I put them into the outside. Those things sort of come naturally, but it's been a struggle. I don't know if you find what you think about this little over here. Let's have a little look. There we go. I've got my pointer now. So over here, we've gone from the poor health and well-being to another thing that I think is quite a crisis for childhood, and that is our curriculum. Now, I'm not sure, but this one in front of you probably doesn't look familiar at all. I think there's a huge problem in having a poor curriculum. I think there's a huge problem in having a hierarchy in the subject. And just recently, in fact, in the last week, I've had 2 conversations which really highlight this. One of them being someone saying, oh, well, definitely encourage my son, although he loves them, not to do art or drama for GCSE because they're just not going to be useful. And another conversation I had when trying to fit in some work for a school was, oh, it's okay, you could do that afternoon because they'll only miss art. So I think that's very dangerous, which is why I really jumped on this. This is part of the new Indian strategy for their curriculum in 2020. It was put together. And they are putting arts integration at the heart of their curriculum. They are talking about holistic education and experiential education, but really, really embedded. And then the last thing that is most significant for children because they are most vulnerable to climate breakdown. They are most vulnerable to the extreme weather. They are most vulnerable to climate temperatures. And they are the ones, right now, our children are the ones who are going to have to deal with the issue as it gets worse. So we know that this is a serious issue, and the science is very clear. The issue is serious. The good news is it is solvable. And I believe that a bit of outdoor learning and the arts can actually go quite a long way to solving and easing these burdens. So we've got them joined together. We've got this synergy. We've got the huge benefits that both demonstrate. Got a little, quite liked this quote. It just sums up really neatly, better than I could. Access to art opportunities and participation in the arts can dramatically improve health and well-being, counter inequalities, and inclusivity and increase social engagement. So that was the NHS, the Welsh Confederation in 2018. And what you find is all these benefits that are mentioned for the arts are equally mentioned in the outdoors. So this amplification is hugely important. How are we going to do it? So I actually think it's really useful to kind of separate some of what we do outdoors creatively into different sort of sections. And I think there's a whole section that we can do outside where the arts are inspired by nature. And then the other area is the arts in and within nature. So actually using the materials in nature, sort of in situ art. I also think it's very useful to look at this as a time thing. So I often say this to teachers, that when you're thinking about outdoor learning, it's really about reframing how you plan things. And instead of saying, oh, how could we take this lesson outside? I would say before you plan anything, you ask yourself why the classroom is the best place for that learning. And sometimes, occasionally, it will be. What often helps is to take time out to do starters. So you can go, in terms of timing, from a 10-minute starter to a whole creative art project outside. And then we're looking at the space. We're looking at your school grounds to visits and residentials. And I would really appreciate if anyone could pop anything into the chat along visits and residentials, any really good art subject linked residentials or visits that you've been on that you could share with the rest of us. Okay, sound inspiration. So this is our George Crumb over here, and I'm not sure whether the sound will actually work. It doesn't matter if it won't, but so George Crumb, this avant-garde composer, has done some phenomenal pieces of music that are inspired by humpback whales. We've got a range of composers that are inspired by landscapes and bird song, obsessively about bird song. And I've been thinking and have used this inspiration in some of our learning outside. How do we do what those composers did with particularly sound? As someone who's not a musician, this is something that I've hugely enjoyed when doing it outside. So we're going to whistle through some of these activities. So sound maps, if any of you have done sound maps before, you sit the children with a map, a compass, they face in the direction of north. Here is your CD, and as you hear a sound, you mark it in the distance and the location and proximity. You're sat here in the center, and then you might mark a bird because it's in this direction, and you create a key and a symbol. And a hugely relaxing activity, which combines a number of different things together. Obviously, with much younger children, sound walks work really, really well. So these could be a sound walk where you stop periodically to sit down and take a listen to what you can hear around you. I've downloaded a whole load of bird song apps at the moment and support children with their listening to the sounds they can hear. So a fistful of sounds is literally every time they hear another sound in the environment, they put up a thumb or finger. And I often have two fists up in the air, one for natural sounds and one for human-made sounds. Representing sounds, this is a kind of magical for someone who's not particularly musical. So you sit and you listen to the sounds and you draw the sound as you hear it. So this one here was drawn by a child to represent the humming of a car that was going past the school grounds. And these three all represent different bird song. So I'm making it into a drama. So if you take those musical instruments, those musical inspirations, sorry, and whilst outside, which tends to be a more level playing field for children, tends to make them a little bit more confident and less exposed. So I've done a lot of work around listening to sounds and then using natural materials or instruments actually outside to repeat those sounds. So anything from rainmakers to whistles to pipes, to reinterpret what they have heard on their sound walk. And then bringing in a bit of drama. So I think drama can be hugely helpful in dealing with really difficult sort of scientific concepts. So there's a fantastic drama. Links will be included in a special slide for links. But some of my best sessions have been a class of 30, where I separate them out into the roots, into the trunk, into the xylem, into the phloem, into the leaves and into the branches. And we do a drama through sounds, which will include slurping up the water and drawing in the nutrients. And through that drama and through the sound making and through that collaborative effort together, they understand what all the different parts of the tree can do. And over to my most recent production. It was nothing to do with me at all. It was part of a forest school session, and the children, the year sixes, were doing Greek myths in their classroom. And one was fairly inspired by this and started using the iPad to develop a scene. This then evolved into a 3-week project where they used their forest school skills to make props made out of branches that were cut down. They found settings that perhaps replicated sort of caves, the underworld, and then filmed it and then edited it. And for me, it was one of the most inspiring things I've been involved with, a participant, observer, audience to. Visual inspiration. I would be here for weeks and weeks if I was to go through all the visual inspirations. But how do we get children to be visually inspired by nature? This picture, Joshua Evans Jezra, I want you to have a little quick think as to what that might be representing. So this has been on my wall for about 25 years. So Josh, my son, did this as a 5-year-old, and it is Van Gogh's Sunflowers, if you hadn't worked that out. The thing for me that was a bit disappointing is it was copied from an image of Van Gogh's Sunflowers. And what would have been amazing is to look at the style of Van Gogh, but then make it real. Then actually go outside, then actually get the sunflowers in a pot and do it in the style of, but making it real. So I know these are well-trodden activities, but I still think they're hugely, hugely important and great starters. So if you haven't got a huge amount of time, these are wonderful starters. So we've got colour by nature, and here we've got our caterpillar using repeating patterns, a range of shades we have here of green, and then Farron Ball version of a year 3 class that put together those colours. Happazone. If you haven't done Happazone, this is one of the most relaxing things you can do or offer for children. So it's a Japanese art form where you hammer the pigment out of natural materials to produce these wonderful pieces of art. Leaf art. so many opportunities to do this, but from doing leaf rubbings and then recreating your own art. This here is a bat that a child created, using clay to understand the structures of leaves and making your own leaf slides to really see those there. Scientific to abstract. So I think it's hugely important in science for you to look very carefully into nature, understand nature better by doing these botanical. And this was a fantastic way in for women to study science. So this dates back 702. Then I think bring in the abstract, create a flower from loose parts and materials. Fun sketching games before you go out to identify. Shadow art, a whole range of shadow arts. Over here, we've got these stick pictures, which was actually a maths activity to reinforce angle work. Observing through photography, a whole list of things that the children go and explore. And then some wonderful apps over here for on the iPad from iBooth, photo booth, which shows mirror image and symmetry. Of course, we need to use these amazing materials. And this is one of the most tactile, soils or clay. Again, you're all familiar with it, but this can be used again and again throughout the curriculum. So we have tree spirits and we have creatures adapted to their environment. Elder crafts. Sort of kind of finished almost on this one. This activity, this one over here, was done by a really, I'll say slightly negative teenager who joined one of my family groups, who by the end of the session said she felt so relaxed. And these elder beads, where you push the pithy center out, she talked about the smells, the textures, and how it made her feel happy to make this elder jewellery. So from school grounds to sculpture gardens, what can inspire? I think it would be amazing if any of you have come across any really good school grounds that enhance that creative side through sensory gardens, for instance. And there, that was, I think we're doing, give me a heads up on time, someone who's in charge there.
We're doing great, Julie. Have you, is that your final screen?
Yes, so what I just wanted to finish off with a final little bit, if that's okay, in conclusion, and then draw on any of those things that we flashed through in the lesson. So if I've got time to do that, in conclusion, I think there's endless opportunities and I barely scratched the surface. Arts help interpret and understand and represent nature. Nature offers the arts materials and settings and provides colour, pattern, texture, form, and a wealth of artists and designers that have been to learn about, that have been inspired by nature. Together, they amplify the benefits of both. And those benefits are about collaboration, are about care and pro-environmental behaviours, are about care and environmental behaviours. I've just lost my train of thought there. Concentration, that was it. Concentration, critical thinking and creative thinking. In the end, and this is a quote from a Senegalese conservationist, we will only conserve what we love. We will only love what we understand, and we will only understand what we are taught. I'm going to expand this quote and say we will only really love and understand what we're taught if we experience it firsthand. I think there's huge opportunity to tackle with the environment and arts some of those huge crises that we are facing.
So now it is time to hand over to hear from Pashley Down Infant School in Eastbourne. Pashley Down is an infant school that's tucked in the corner of a small estate with private and social housing. They are surrounded by the South Downs and are incredibly lucky to have access to the Downs, to their own acre of woodland, a farm with chickens, guinea pigs and rabbits, a school pond and class allotments. They also have a team of talented teaching staff who take responsibility for all of these different areas. And we're delighted that two of the teachers, Vanna and Rachel, are able to join us today to tell us about their creative outdoor learning.
Yeah, thanks, Mandy. So I'm Vanna and this is Rachel. As Mandy said, we're a small infant school in Eastbourne, and we do a lot of outdoor learning. And I've asked Rachel to join me with this as she's a huge part in running it and leading a lot of it as well. These are a few things that we've done so far. I'll show you some pictures and kind of talk to you a bit more about them in a bit more detail. And we just said, actually, interestingly, with the breakout room and the questions having that link with climate change, we just said that actually a lot of the outdoor learning that we do is usually linked to science and the environment. So hopefully this will be a nice link to it. We've made a bottle greenhouse. We have our own scarecrow. We've done a lot of bottle top art. We have lots of different art around the school. We'll kind of take you around our grounds and what we do in those areas with our outdoor learning. So to start with, this is our bottle greenhouse. So we're really lucky to have an allotment patch across the road from us, and there was a blank space. So Rachel had a really nice idea of creating a greenhouse, but instead of just buying one, using those recyclable materials such as used all the time plastic bottles to create one. And the children all had a bottle each. So this was about 3 years ago now, and each child got their own bottle, and they were able to make a design on there that was unique to them, and that was their bottle, and that would be added into the greenhouse itself. So you can see it being here, and then some children celebrating the opening. It was a really nice event. So we had the local MP to come, and he did a kind of big grand opening, cutting the ribbon, and it was in the local paper as well, which was really lovely. So it was a really nice celebration of the children's work, and they did a little work around why we were using plastic bottles to make the greenhouse. Bottle top art. So we have at Pashley, we have our Pashley values, which are we've got 7 animals which we use as part of our values. So we have, you can see here, we have our penguin, who is our persevering penguin. We have our equality elephant, resilient raccoon, and we did a big school project where everybody was collecting in CDs and bottles and bottle tops. We got far more than I think we planned to, and we got quite a few left as well. So we had another project where one of our pupils, their dad is an artist, and he'd created some artwork for charity, wasn't it?
To raise money for the NHS.
So yes, just down in the bottom right corner, as we said, one of the pupils' dads, who's an artist, did a small project to raise money for charity, and so for the NHS. Well, it's not a charity, obviously, so they're for the NHS. This was during lockdown. Was it just before lockdown?
It wasn't lockdown. Yeah.
And then the children created bottle top art using the artwork as well, which was a really nice project. And again, so just kind of moving back over to our allotment area, we recently created a scarecrow, and we had a lot of the children involved in creating our scarecrow. I can't remember what name we landed on with him. But it was a really nice project, and we tried to focus on doing a lot of outdoor learning work with our PP children and our SEN children, just so that they kind of get that, is working in smaller groups, and just that bit more time to be outside and have that, like I say, smaller group time. We also created, and this was quite over a few years, this project. So we, like I said, we have a lot of artwork around the school, and to get the children involved, they'd had their own wooden blocks, and they were able to, on the back of the blocks, they made a design, and they were able to sign their names. And I think it was across 4 years.
4-year group.
Yeah, 4-year group. So yeah, so they'd done their designs, they'd stuck them down, they'd sanded them down, and it just meant that they had that kind of lasting memory of Pashley, and the idea was that they'd be stuck with Pashley for forever at the signs up, which was a nice project for them all to do. And with our woodland, so we're really lucky, we have a big woodland area behind us, and we do a lot of our outdoor learning out there in each year group. So we only have early years to year 2. We're really lucky that we get Rachel on 2 of those terms, and she comes in and does a lot of work with us in the woodlands, and it's a really great opportunity which we use to invite parents and really get them involved with the outdoor learning with the children as well. So unfortunately I couldn't find all the pictures, but we so this is some of the woodland leaf art that they did, and it was actually really nice, what Julie had in her PowerPoint, where they create leaf art, where they stick a leaf down and then they create a picture using those leaves. So the children have really enjoyed doing that over the past few years with their parents. We create crowns with the children, so they can go be king or queens of the woodland with their adults, and we tend to link it to finding colours or shades of leaves to and kind of do like a competition on who's got the best leaf crown, which is a really nice thing to do, which they always seem to be very successful, don't they, those activities. We have a few extra projects that we're hoping to work on. So here is our little farm, which we're hoping to develop and just have a kind of in the midst of mind mapping different things to do out there, different ways of getting children involved in the outdoor learning out there, and also just our we have just behind our woodland farm, we've got an enchanted garden, which has got our outdoor woodland classroom. So we're looking at what we can do in the woodlands to kind of have some kind of permanent art up there as well. But we're really lucky with the grounds that we have, and we've really used the opportunity to do a lot of outdoor learning, especially creative learning outdoors, because otherwise what a waste it would be, because we are, like I say, so lucky to have the grounds that we do. But yeah, that's kind of us at Pashley. And
that's amazing. Thank you so much, Vanna and Rachel. I want to go to Pashley, frankly. It's wonderful, and thank you for being a persevering penguin and finally working through the technical hiccups as well. We're going to have some time for questions for all of our key speakers at the end. So I think it's time to hand over to Lorraine to introduce Gomer Junior School.
Yes, hello everybody. Yes, I'm going to introduce Linda at Gomer Junior School from Gosport. Gomer is a beach school, and it's a strong arts school where the arts generally are very well embedded. But Linda's going to talk about why they became a beach school, what they do, and what the benefits of it are to the children in the school community. Thanks very much, Linda.
Okay, so Stokes Bay is where we are based, down in Gosport on the peninsula. And why did we become a beach school? Well, it was really interesting because it happened accidentally. We had gone for a whole school celebration down to the beach. And just in casual conversations with teachers and adults, we realised that there's a lot of our children were not going down to the beach regularly. And as a staff, we sort of discussed this, and we just couldn't understand why they weren't using and going down to the beach regularly, especially during the holidays, especially the summer holidays. And it was really interesting. So that got us to sort of decide that we wanted to do something about it. And we've got a bit like the other school, we have got amazing grounds. We've got lovely parks, but our own grounds are surrounded by the trees and woodland. We've got a woodland walk. We're a forest school as well. We've got an outdoor fire pit. We are also involved in Gosport and Bloom, so we've got our own greenhouse and stumpery and Olympic meadow, so all of that kind of stuff. But it was the beach then that we wanted to sort of venture back into. So being a beach school makes the most of our outdoor classroom that surrounds our nation, and it has become growing really, really steadily in the UK. But also it's again building on, especially after COVID, it's that children's confidence, there's no barriers, and it's that self-esteem, that feeling good, and the social skills and the well-being. So that was our sort of statement on our website. We were delighted to offer outdoor curriculum. Stokes Bay is on our doorstep, and it seemed an ideal opportunity to make visits all year. So we got together as a school, and we decided that we were it wasn't going to be an add-on. We were going to make sure that we factored this into cross-curricular links, and that we would resource it. So that's what we did. We had regular PDMs to talk about the risk assessment, and we talked about the planning. We invited several people in the area, local artists, Friends of Stokes Bay, the history group, to sort of share their knowledge. And then, we invested the time in it. So we went down to the beach and carried out the activities ourselves with our beach leader, Sharon Toon. We did all the activities that we'd expect the children to do it. And it's just been, really successful. Obviously, during COVID, we've had 2 years where we haven't really used it. But we've, got back since September and made sure that we are, because it's outdoors, we've made sure that we've factored it in to at least once a term, if not half termly. We've worked closely with the Dive Museum and the Friends of Stokes Bay, so the children, as part of their local history curriculum in Year 4, go down there. They have sort of hands-on with the museum, and use it for sort of close observational drawing and sketches and designs. We're also a STEM school, so we do a lot of sort of e-hom as well, and building in with the the STEAM kind of aspects of design. So a lot of stuff that we do, we try and do quite practically. So the Dive Museum is an absolute fantastic inspiration of how design has changed over the centuries. It was built in the Victorian times, so it links into our local history. But it's just literally on our doorstep, and they're very obliging to open to schools. That they're really keen to sort of get children down to the beach and to the Dive Museum. Being creative, so I said in Year 4, do a local history topic. So we went down and we looked at handling the artifacts. We also, because of the Alva Bank is down by Stokes Bay as well, which was used by Prince Albert and Queen Victoria also visited. So they sort of look at the design features, the windows and the pillars, and they've had a go at doing their sort of close observational drawings, and then using that to sort of what would their sort of improvements. And we also link it into obviously being cross-curricular with their literacy. They did persuasive leaflets to encourage people to visit the Dive Museum, but we've also done explanation texts of local fauna and flora, and also maps that they've drawn and annotated. So it really is a cross-curricular affair. A lot of creative writing. So we like to take them down, lie on the beach at different times during the year, so they get that difference of the summer, the winter, the springtime, and the autumn, and they can see the difference of the clouds. There's a lot of creative writing that we've got from there. The children, actually, there's two that really stuck out in my mind. This was a few years ago. Was with a child who wasn't really able, who just turned around and said, "Oh, it looks like the sea is littered with diamonds." And it's those kind of things, those key things that we sort of like the magic takeaways. The waves licked the shore like a playful kitten. They were two comments that came from year 3 classes. So we do use it in cross curricular. It's not just arts. We use it for every subject that we can possibly link it to. Talked again about the children wanted to really be involved in their local community. So again, we do get involved in a whole school litter pick, but then they also give them links to community litter picks. So the children will grow up to be responsible when they are using the beach, and they are quite opinionated when we go down there at what is left. And it's not just teenagers. Their main bit that they were cross with was fishermen, because there's lots and lots of hooks, tiny hooks and bits of fishing wire that are left, which are obviously dangerous. So the children actually again use that as a writing to the local angling club to sort of say, persuade them for the local fishermen to be more responsible down there. So we feel as though it's really, encouraged them to use the beach and look after the beach. We are incredibly lucky to have had a connection with Maggie Cochrane, who is a local artist, and the year 6s created seascapes with her using acrylic paint and credit cards. And Maggie is a sort of came to art quite late, which was an inspiration from the children, and said that she just did it as a hobby, and then she then enrolled in probably, I want to say in her 40s, going back to university to do an art degree. And she's quite a successful artist now and does a lot down in Cornwall. But the children, she shared her story, and then she showed them how she builds up a picture and how she goes back. And the pieces, unfortunately, I haven't got lots of pieces because we had a bit of a media nightmare, and someone deleted a lot of our pictures during COVID, which is unfortunate. So I haven't got a lot of the year 6s, but they were amazing. They were really, really impressive. And she also did some sort of felt work with us. But the children had gone down to the beach with her. They'd looked at the skyline. They'd looked at the colours and the textures and the tones. And then she came over a series of weeks to do it. She did it initially for us, for free. We sort of gave her a donation, but we were really, really lucky to be able to work with a local artist. Again, obviously, we talked about Andy Goldsworthy. He's an easy one to use, but it is a springboard. They love going down to the beach and creating their own art pieces. They go for, scavenger hunts along the beach in their teams, and they collect driftwood, seaweed, anything they can, and they use whatever they have to make their own frame along the boardwalk, and then they create their picture in the middle. And obviously we take pictures of them, and then they put the driftwood in places where to back. We've also used they've gone collecting and found sea glass and shells, and used those back at school to create their own pieces. The other one again was things like that with the stones. They painted stones during lockdown and went and hid those all around places for other people to sort of find. So, what we have found is what we wanted to achieve is more children want to go back to the beach. They want to take their family to the beach. And during lockdown, again, a lot of the stuff that we had done at school, they were doing with their adults, and they were uploading pictures onto the Google Classroom. So it has been really, really, a great inspiration for us that what we wanted to achieve, we have achieved. Camping out as well, we've used it for survival. We've used a range of materials, tarpaulin sheets, ropes, again, designing the most creative shelter they can, using, sort of whatever they can to kind of, build, and then trying to test them as well. But yeah, it has been interesting for them to see beach erosion. The storm that we just had recently washed away one of the sea walls, and the children were all very, very sort of excited back at class, because they were saying that we did this, we've gone down, we know that they're going to have to now dredge up a load of stones and sand from further down the shore to bring it up. They've sort of cages filled with stones, which have now created a new sea wall. So that, again, the children, because they've had those lessons down at the beach, were very involved locally when they saw what had actually happened after the storm. All the staff, enjoy using the beach. There's nobody who doesn't want to get down there with their class. We want to find ways of using it and being outside. I think one of the key things that we did was to definitely make sure we resourced it well. So we've got our own little truck, pull along trolley, that we have got a variety of equipment that we can take down. They've got hardback sketchbooks that they're given in year 3, so they're full and bulging by the time they get to year 6, with their designs and sketches that they've gone outside. I think they're definitely the resourcing, having laminated sheets of the local fauna and flora, the maps, the types of the stones, having the beach profile grid so they can see the difference in sizes of stones as they go nearer the shore, having the throw ropes, having cones to cone it off, the tarpaulins and all that kind of stuff. We really have raised money as a school through cake sales and ice cream sales to make sure that kind of we've got an outdoor unit which is full of stuff that we've gathered, so that we can go and use the beach school in any way we want to, but we've got it all to hand, so it's very easy just to fill up the truck with what you want to take. The risk assessments are there for everybody to just adapt and use, but yeah, we really, it is that we want to get out and about. We've invested in things like cards for maths cards to go down to the beach or into the grounds, where they can look at shapes and patterns, looking at the Isle of Wight as well, so sort of looking at profiles. So yeah, basically we've tried and get out as much as possible. So yes, that's me.